What's up, world? Welcome
What's
to
up?
another edition of the RiOT Comedy podcast presented by RiOT. Shout out to RiOT
Alright.
Natural Spring Water, keeping us healthy and hydrated over here.
Yup.
NFL, 2 weeks in,
Yup.
starting to
Yeah,
figure out who's who.
a little bit.
Things are
A
getting
little bit.
interesting.
I think we're starting to figure out who's who with some teams. Some of the other teams, it's like, we'll see. We know everything we need to know about the Carolina Panthers. They've decided that they're going to start Andy Dalton over Bryce Young, which I'm interested in how you feel about it and what you think of the Carolina Panthers benching Bryce Young.
I think they gave up a lot.
Keep in mind, Bryce Young also broke the record for most completions with least amount of yards.
I think their team is terrible. They're going to win like 3 games this season. So you leave in Bryce Young, the guy that you gave up all these picks for, and you let him grow. You let him unleash. You having the most completions with the fewest yards is ridiculous. Air that ball out.
That's coaching error.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the situation they're in, you got to let this dude grow in this, whatever system you're trying to run right now. But yeah, you got to. I mean, you can't just let him be thrown out here 6 yard passes all day long and then bench him because y'all ain't scoring enough points because you ain't running the right plays to put points on the board.
Well, my biggest thing about the Panthers is like, number one, if you're gonna suck. Just keep Bryce out there. I don't think Bryce Young's the guy for Carolina. He needs some different pastures because Carolina is probably the worst franchise in football. We've seen it time and time again, right? Like Baker Mayfield looked like shit there, and now he's playing at an arguably like a lower Pro Bowl level. His team is 2-0. Which they actually the Buccaneers might be 1-1. I can't remember, but bottom line is that they look like a good football team. What do you say? 2-0. So that's the thing that we're kind of looking at here. Is your microphone? We got to start over.
Yeah, 2-0.
2-0.
No,
Okay, you were muted.
2-0.
Gotcha. So they're 2-0, and the Panthers also, like Sam Darnold plays for the Minnesota Vikings, also 2-0. Both of those guys look pretty good. And don't get me wrong, like Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in football. Any quarterback you give him can throw the ball decent. But Sam Darnold's playing really good football right now. Baker Mayfield's playing really good football right now. Both guys that you had on your roster, if you were Carolina, and you made those guys look like journeymen as well. So we're in a situation right now of like, what the hell? I mean, I feel the same way about the Jets with like them ruining Geno Smith and then them ruining Sam Darnold as well. But like, my thing about it is like, what is it about your shitty fucking franchise that you guys can't get even remotely a quarterback to throw mildly well there? Like, what is it? Your systems? Is it your ownership? Is it your shitty staff? What is it about Carolina that's just so fucking shitty that no matter who you guys put on your team, they suck? Like, I'm interested in what it is. And nobody knows. It's just they're the Panthers.
Nah, I think that's their identity. Once a sports franchise has their identity, and it doesn't matter what sport this is in, you don't really break out of that. Like if you're just a sucky franchise, that's what you are. You don't win.
Yeah, but
And
like
that's where they are. That's where careers go to die. Is
but
Carolina.
but
That's
we're
places.
talking about 18 completions for 86 yards. That's not like you're a shitty franchise. Like that's a whole other level of bullshit. And everybody can say, like, did you watch the game?
Absolutely.
Have you seen Bryce Young try to throw a football? I know for a fact, though, that like you got to let your quarterback air it out, though, because if you don't, it makes the defense play closer up. You know they're going to run, throw screens, do sweeps, and it limits your fucking offense to only getting a couple yards per possession because the defense already knows what you're going to do, and that's keep the ball in 1 to 6 yard range. And that's a really easy thing to defend when you can stack the box and you know there's no way they're going to go over the top. Makes it incredibly easy. So, I mean, I'm not mad at benching Bryce Young necessarily because of how bad of a job he's done since he took over. However, though, this is why you don't take a quarterback like Bryce Young, number 1 overall, who's not very big, who didn't have a lot of pro-level offense experience and then play them immediately. This is why you sit guys. If sitting isn't too good for Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, it's not too good for Bryce Young and all these other guys that we see that fucking, are just mediocre guys that everybody's kind of high on for no reason. I'm getting tired of like, oh, I'm really high on this guy. And it's like, well, he hasn't. It's different to be high on a rookie, but it's like people are like, oh, I'm still high on Justin Fields. It's like, that's fine if you're still high on Justin Fields, but why? Like, I don't think Justin Fields is a bad quarterback.
Yeah, we've seen a large enough sample size at this point.
But we keep seeing on these sample sizes of players, and they're still getting paid. Like, Trevor Lawrence has one Pro Bowl, one playoff win, right? Second or third highest paid quarterback in the NFL. This dude has lost 7 games in a row.
Yeah.
It is impossible that you should be treated as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL and you lose 7 games in a row no matter who is on your team. No matter who's on your team, you should never lose 7 games in a row.
Absolutely.
These motherfuckers haven't won a game since like Thanksgiving. Like, it's bad. And this dude makes $55 million a year.
Quarterback market. What's going to happen with the quarterback market? Are these dudes going to get tired of paying dudes $50 million a year to go out there and not win them games?
Like, they have to, right?
You can get a $20 million quarterback. You can get a $20 million quarterback and a $15 million running back, and you're good to go.
I agree. Like, that's how I feel about it, too. Like, I was saying in the offseason, like, there was a bunch of running backs available. I'm like, shit, if you can get Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley for the price of fucking $22 million a year.
Absolutely.
And Baker Mayfield costs $30 million, that's the same price as Trevor Lawrence. That is the same price as Trevor Lawrence. So at what point are we just not, like, even, okay, for instance, like, even like Kirk Cousins got super cheesed up at $45 million, right? Saquon Barkley makes like $12 million. That's $2 million over what Trevor Lawrence gets paid. I'd rather have Kirk Cousins and Saquon Barkley on my team at the same time.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
So my thing is, like you said, like, and I don't want to knock certain guys. Like Dak's contract is more swallowable to me than Trevor Lawrence because I know Dak's never been to an NFC title game, this, that, or the other. Dude's got like 7-8 years in a row of going to the playoffs and fucking throwing for 4,500 yards. Like at some point, like it's like I'd rather not let this guy go. But like the Kyler Murray contract, for instance, like Kyler Murray has played well this season, so I'm glad that he's playing well. I always thought Kyler Murray had the ability to play better, but at the same time, how do you build a roster around a 6 out of 10 quarterback when you pay them top tier money? Like Patrick Mahomes isn't even a top 10 paid quarterback in the NFL anymore. If you're a team and everybody's like, "Well, it's the quarterback market. You got to pay your quarterbacks. You got to do this. You got to do that." If you can't look a quarterback in the face and tell them, you're not better than Patrick Mahomes, you don't deserve more money than him, then you shouldn't be GMing an NFL franchise. Plain and simple.
I'd much rather get a quarterback. I'd much rather, instead of spending $55 million on a quarterback, I'd much rather have a $45 million quarterback and spend an extra $10 million on my offensive line.
Yeah, dude. And my thing about it is people keep saying, like, oh, like running backs aren't that important in the NFL anymore. And all these things, and it can't be true. Like that cannot be true. That having having the best running back in football is good for you. And what sucks dick, this is what ends up happening a lot. And this is what sucks dick is like you're the Tennessee Titans, right? And you have King Henry in the backfield, which I know he doesn't play there anymore, everybody. But listen to what I'm saying. So you have the best running back in football in Derrick Henry, and you go to the AFC title game, right? And your team is good. So then you give Ryan Tannehill a bunch of fucking money because it's easy to play decent quarterback play in the NFL when play action works no matter what. If you even pretend you're going to hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, everybody's like, oh shit. And then everybody jumps to the line and it gives your running back an extra half second to get ahead of somebody. And then you throw slants, you throw up the field because everybody is more open and the people have to play a lot more man on you than they traditionally would because they have to stack the box or Derrick Henry's going to rush for 180 yards. That is why the running back position is important, everybody. Like, do you guys think that the Falcons would give Kirk Cousins all this money if they didn't have Bijan Robinson on a rookie contract and Bijan Robinson being a top 5 running back in the NFL? Of course not. They thought to themselves, Kirk Cousins is good enough to where if Bijan Robinson has a really good year, we're going to be really good because of Bijan Robinson because Kirk Cousins is not going to turn the ball over. These are all things like that people need to look at and understand, because the Dallas Cowboys were much better when Ezekiel Elliott was one of the best running backs in football. Jared Goff
Facts.
looked really good for the Rams when they had Todd Gurley. Jalen Hurts is about to look a lot better because he has Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley got Daniel Jones $40 million a fucking season to throw turnovers. The guy who has more pick sixes than touchdowns since he signed his contract.
They should have gave all that money. They should have gave all that money to Saquon. Saquon will win you more games than Daniel Jones.
And it's not even fucking close. It's not even close.
So
he won the Eagles that first game.
How does Saquon get $11 million? How does Saquon get $11 million and Daniel Jones gets $40-something million? Get the fuck out of here.
And I'm not over here pretending like I don't understand that the quarterback position isn't the most important job. I'm fully aware. However, though, if you don't have a top 5 quarterback, fill your team out with really good players and get an old journeyman quarterback, or go get fucking a rookie that you don't have to pay a bunch of money to. But do not let a rookie trick you guys into thinking that they're good when the NFL hasn't quite figured them out yet.
Real talk.
And they win 10 games in one season, so then you give them $45-50 million for a quarterback of the future. I don't know. I wouldn't say that's a very good idea.
That's what Green Bay did.
So, what do you say?
That's what Green Bay did.
I hope it works out for him. I do. But, at least Jordan Love has played there for, 5 years, right? At least they had him in practice. He learned under Aaron Rodgers. They have a really good idea of what they have there, right? And they blew that lead to go to an NFC title game. I wouldn't have paid him as much money if I was the Packers. You can hold out. I don't give a shit. But at least he's been in their system for a long time. At least he was in their system for a really long time. And they've had the same coach for 5-6 years now. There's a lot more stability in Green Bay than Jacksonville and Arizona and some of these other teams that are paying these players way too much fucking money. And I would have cheesed up Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is not part of this conversation. Lamar Jackson, you're not part of this conversation. And sticking kind of in the realm of shitty teams, we got some surprise 0-2ers out there. And by the surprise 0-2 teams, I'm not really talking about the Colts or the Jags. More or less referring to Cincy,
Definitely
Baltimore, and LA, and that would be the Rams.
Yeah.
So out of those 3 teams, which team is gonna go to the playoffs? If you had to pick one of the teams to go to the playoffs, pick one. And of those 3 teams, which one's gonna have the worst season and burn out early and be a disappointment?
The team that's going to burn out early and be a disappointment is going to be the Rams. There was a lot of people who had them picked to win 10, 11, 12 games this year. I think ESPN had them picked to have go 12-5, and they were the only NFC team that ESPN picked to win 12 games, and that shit is not going to happen. They're going to win 5.
We play San Francisco next week as well.
We're going to start off 0-3, probably get our asses kicked. So the Rams are done this season.
Well,
this
Puka
shit is
and
over.
Kupp are both on injured reserve, which means they're out minimum 4 weeks.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
Yeah, so our two best players on offense are hurt.
We lost 3 offensive linemen due to injury.
Yeah, this season for the Rams is just a wash. We're just waiting until next year at this point. So that puts us down to Cincinnati or Baltimore. I think one of them definitely makes the playoffs. I mean, they're in a division with the Browns and the Steelers. So, and the Steelers are 2-0. I don't see them continuing to do that.
You never know.
I think they'll. It's the NFL. Crazy shit happens.
And it's Mike Tomlin.
But I really kind of expect the Steelers to go 7-9. They'll win somewhere between 7 and 9 games, float right around that 500 mark. But I think between Baltimore and Cincinnati, if I had to put money on it, I'd probably put money on Baltimore to make the playoffs.
I mean, I think it's a certainty. The AFC South, every team has 0. The AFC South has 0 wins between the bottom 3. They're all 0-2 except for the Texans are 2-0. So you don't got to worry about that division sending anybody to the playoffs. With Tua being out now, the AFC East just got a lot weaker, so that'll help Baltimore get into the playoffs as well. And I think Baltimore, that team's been together for a long time. They might reel off 10 wins in a row and it not even be that big of a deal.
They might. They could. See, definitely. They're a team that could go on a winning streak. Even if they win only their next 5 in a row. Now they're sitting at 5-2 and they're fine.
Like, they probably should have won last week, but so what? You dropped a game. The first game of the season you lost in Kansas City. I think that's a loss you can swallow. What sucks for Baltimore right now, though, is like the Chiefs are 2-0. And you're 0-2, and they have the tiebreaker. So that means that you might have to go to Arrowhead in the playoffs, which is a fucking disaster for you. It's an absolute. I mean, you guys lost at home in the AFC title game last year, so it's at the end of the day. But home field advantage is handy, especially not going to Arrowhead. And you guys are almost ensuring that you go to Arrowhead if you're not careful. But yeah, I think Baltimore's the obvious choice. That's a good football team. You know, they might start off 0-2, but like, let's be honest, by week 8, they'll be back in the power rankings. They'll probably be 5-3 by week 8, be fucking in the playoff picture, and everything will be fine. I don't think the Jets are super good. The Chargers are interesting. They lost like a lot of pieces, but somehow they're still good. Harbaugh's doing his thing over there, so I think the Chargers make the playoffs. But I don't see too many teams, and I don't think the AFC is as good as it has been. And I think it's going to benefit Cincy and Baltimore. Baltimore more. Cincinnati, the Jamar Chase situation's fucked up. T. Higgins probably isn't out there playing as hard as he can, but he's been injured. And even when he gets back, you guys franchise tagged him and didn't give him a contract, so how hard's he going to play? Your offensive line's always a disaster, and Joe Burrow's health is risky. That leads to a recipe of 500 football, in my opinion. We'll see. I mean, because, like, you're not going to be able to beat the shit out of Cleveland. That team is really good besides the quarterback, so, like, your weakness is everything but quarterback, and their weakness is just quarterback. Like, traditionally, good football teams usually win those games, and Pittsburgh is still going to be solid. Their defense has shown out all season. If Justin Fields cannot turn the ball over and just be super athletic, that's a recipe for the Steelers to win games. And maybe like I said, one of our first podcasts for the NFL season, I said that I don't think the Steelers win more than 5 games. We'll see. I might be wrong. I never really count out Mike Tomlin. I did this year because I was just like, dude, this situation's a fucking disaster. But we'll see kind of what shakes out with those 0-2 teams. And then as far as 2-0 teams that are 2-0, who's the biggest pretender out there? And what I mean by pretender, I mean like, who's going to, if they make the playoffs, who would get their asses kicked, or who's not going to make the playoffs at all, who's 2-0? Who's a 2-0 team that you're like, they're not going to make the playoffs, so it's fine? Are you looking at Minnesota? Are you looking at Tampa? Are you looking at the Chargers? You know, there's not a lot of 2-0 teams left. I think there's only 6-7 teams left that are 2-0, and Kansas City's one of them. Houston's one of them. So those teams probably aren't, probably are going to be who we thought they were. So I think I'm looking at go ahead. Are you on mute?
Yeah, so I think out of the 2-0 teams, obviously Kansas City is the contender out of those, and I think I really think Buffalo, after watching them play a couple games, they look like a really good team. They look like a team that loves playing together. They look like a team that knows they're good enough to win a championship. Like, when I'm just watching the little nuances of the sidelines and the camaraderie in the team, I think Buffalo has the best chance to stop the Chiefs from three-peating. The rest of the 2-0 teams, I mean, Seattle, not a contender. New Orleans.
Biggest pretender, though, like, of all these teams that are 2-0, who, if you had to put your money on, like, one of these teams to miss the playoffs, like, for sure, who are you picking?
Oh, I'd have to take the Chargers.
Yeah.
Or Pittsburgh. The Chargers or Pittsburgh. One of them two. But, I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints missed the playoffs.
Division's pretty sucky, though. Like, Tampa's pretty solid. NFC's looking a little bit stronger than it has. I think Minnesota's the biggest pretender of the 2-0s. But at this, because there's a part of me that wants to say the Saints, but like, y'all motherfuckers scored 91 points in the first 2 weeks. Like, I can't sit there and say that, like y'all can fill it up. Obviously, y'all motherfuckers can fill it up. they're also the oldest team in the NFL, so that might benefit them if they can reel off 3-4 wins in a row at the start of the season. All you got to do is play
If they can
500
stay
football the
healthy,
rest of the year, and you'll get to the playoffs
yeah,
probably. And like you would think an older, more experienced football team can play 500 football if they know they have to. So I don't think.
yeah. I think as long as they stay healthy, as long as none of them old geezers go down with a broken hip, they should be pretty solid.
And like that's how I feel about the Chargers. Like they got rid of a lot of talent this year because Herbert's contract's kicked in, but Harbaugh's a fucking beast, dog. He gets the best out of quarterbacks, period. There is no ands, if, or buts about it. Of all the guys that haven't proven anything in the NFL that got wildly overpaid for not proving shit, I think Justin Herbert's the best of them, me personally. So I like what they're doing. I don't think Sam Darnold in Minnesota, though. That's the team that has me more nervous than anything. Seattle as well. They play in a really tough – like, our division's tough, man. Like, the Cardinals don't suck.
Yeah.
They barely lost to Houston, and then they came out and beat the Rams, scored 40 points on them. The Rams still don't suck. Like, if you're Seattle, it's going to be really hard to fucking win a bunch of division games and keep pace with the Niners and all those things.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you guys are 2-0. You're the only 2-0 team in the division. You guys are winning the division. I don't think it's going to carry on for very long. Geno is playing decent for sure. I think Geno's a decent quarterback, but I would put my money on Seattle or Minnesota. But if I had to put my money on one of them, I would say Minnesota, just because they're the Vikings, and I didn't expect much of them this year. What do you say?
To miss the playoffs?
Yeah,
And take the
of all the
Vikings?
2-0 teams, if
The
they were like,
2-0
who's
team?
going to miss the playoffs, which like I think there's a handful of them that probably will. Not a handful, but two. I think Seattle and Minnesota will both miss the playoffs. But as far as one team, the biggest pretender of the 2-0s, I would say Minnesota is definitely that situation. And then, because like we've seen Sam Darnold ball out a little bit this year, a couple 200-yard games, things like that. But what we're not really seeing in the NFL in general amongst quarterbacks is like your 300-400-yard games. I don't think we've even seen a 400-yard game this season. I could be wrong, but maybe just one. And shit, I think last week we had like one, maybe two quarterbacks total even throw for 300 yards. So what's going on in the NFL? What are we seeing? Is it rust? Is it defenses are really good? Is it offensive coordinators are dick sucky? Like what is it that we're seeing here?
I think it's a couple things. I think it's obviously good defense, defending long passes. This not obviously, but I think another thing that people aren't really talking about yet is the dynamic kickoff, giving you a shorter field position.
Yeah. I mean,
when you gotta go 20 less yard or whatever, 15. I don't know where they. It seems like the dynamic kickoffs are always they're getting it way beyond the 20 now. So, when you got to go 15 less yards every possession, that'll cut into your yards through the air real quick.
Absolutely, and I think the biggest thing that we're seeing with these quarterback play is everybody wants a super athletic quarterback, not necessarily a super athletic quarterback who can also fucking throw a dart. And I think NFL defenses have adjusted wildly well to this in saying, hey, guys, these quarterbacks can't shred us. They can't shred us with their arm. Like, not a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL now can shred us with their arm. So if we play
Real
like
talk.
a night,
There's not a lot of dudes who can.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. There's not a lot of dudes who can just sit in the pocket and carve up a defense.
No. So I think what these NFL defenses are figuring out is like, dude, like all we need is to just put like the world's fastest linebacker on the field to shadow these quarterbacks. That's all we have to do is get really fast linebackers who can cover quick slants 5, 7, 8 yards up the field, and quarterbacks who are trying to run. We need a spy, and we need another guy who can cover slant guys, because these guys can't throw over the top of a defender's hand and drop it into a basket. These guys can't throw it up, like through coverage. These guys can't read a fucking defense to save their life because they're getting played too early in their careers. So like let's just fucking get these speedy linebackers out here. We'll play a lot of man with some zone coverages thrown in there as well, kind of mix and match what we're doing, because they can't read a fucking defense if we keep changing it up. And then next thing you fucking know, boom, 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 This quarterback has 212 yards and they fucking scored 18 points and they lost. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing Pat Mahomes dominate so much right now is because his arm talent far surpasses everybody in the NFL, it seems like, besides Matthew Stafford, right? Like, Matthew Stafford is the least mobile quarterback in the NFL, has to be. But he's still ranked as one of the best quarterbacks, and everybody's still afraid of him because, like, he'll drop a 40-yard fucking dime on your face and turn the momentum over in the game in one snap of a fucking ball. And
Absolutely.
we can't say that for a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. So defenses have definitely figured it out. Like, they figured out, like, oh, we'll just be athletic as fuck then up front. And if we don't get a lot of sacks, that's fine because you're just going to fucking throw the ball away anyways. Like, you'll never, like, just cover slants and quick outs and shit like that. Cover, the screen's coming, the jet sweep's coming. That shit's super fucking played out. Shit don't fucking work. Stop doing it, everybody. If you ain't Andy Reid, stop doing shit like that. It don't work. And I think that's what we're seeing is just a lack of talent at the quarterback position. Like, you know, I think C.J. Stroud's that guy. I think his arm talent's insane. I think Caleb Williams can maybe get there. But if the Bears might also just ruin Caleb Williams right up from the start, dude. Like, quit fucking playing these guys. Quit it. Like, stop playing these guys immediately, please. Please stop doing it. It's making football less good to watch because, like, when you watch highlights and shit, like, we don't get a lot of fucking, like, Trent Richardson, he be letting that motherfucker, like, that's not his name, Trent Richardson, but quarterback for the Colts. I don't know why. I want to say Trent Richardson, and it's definitely not his fucking name. That's the running back who was for the Colts and the Browns who sucked dick. But I don't know why I can't remember his name. But like that dude dropped fucking bombs. That dude dropped fucking 50-yard bombs like it ain't shit.
Are you talking about Anthony Richardson?
Yes, Anthony Richardson. Be dropping fucking bombs, dude. Like, that shit's fucking tight, and I like seeing shit like that. Like, it's cool to be nimble and get, like, a quick 10-yard scramble, but if you get a super athletic quarterback that can scramble, you're going to be good for one season, and then homeboy's going to be banged up and fucking struggle.
Absolutely.
Like, Lamar's good.
Look at the quarterbacks. Look at who wins all the championships. It's dudes who can sit in the pocket and destroy you and carve you up. And
for sure. Those are the guys that win.
That's and
Lamar's a unicorn. Lamar's different. This does not pertain to Lamar. Lamar can fling a ball around a football field pretty fucking decent, but he's also the greatest running back quarterback of all time. By very, very, like, I know Mike Vick's in there, but of the quarterbacks, of the mobile quarterbacks in the NFL right now, he still leaps and bounds better than all of them. Leaps and bounds.
Oh, yeah.
So, and his career might end up running shorter than some like Cam's did and shit like that. And you have to be okay with that when you have Lamar because he has 2 MVPs and he's super good. But like Justin Fields, Trey Lance, like all these guys they were drafting to try to replicate Lamar did not end up super solid. Jalen Hurts is not as good as he used to be. I think Jalen Hurts is still good.
Yeah.
I would take Jalen Hurts as my starting quarterback for sure. But he's not as good as he was. And these are all things that I mean, honestly, like Tua's got some arm talent, but like he can't run, and like without running into walls. Apparently, he like closes his eyes and just runs into players bigger than him, full speed, head down, like a silly goose. So like, but like Tua's got a little bit of arm talent, but he has Tyreek Hill, and like you guys overpaid him too. Like he had one good season, like 1.5 good years in the NFL, and overpaid him too, and look where you're at now. So there's I just don't think the arm talent's where it is. Joe Burrow, not very mobile. Super good at throwing a football. Bengals, when he's on the field.
Sit back there and shred.
Super fucking good when he's on the field.
That game against the Chiefs was fire.
Hell yeah. And it's because fucking, and like that, with no, like, and that's because Joe Burrow's the shit. Joe Burrow's awesome.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to fucking run and scramble because what these running scramble quarterbacks do a lot too is they go through their first read, their second read, and if somebody's not open, they take off running for like 7-8 yards. Like, cool, you got 7 or 8 yards, but like, that doesn't translate to points all the time. You know what it does is a scramble and then a 25-yard fucking drop to somebody in the open field, like a Justin Jefferson, like a Stephon Diggs who breaks a tackle and goes to the house, like a CeeDee Lamb. That is, and Dak's pretty good at throwing a football around a football field too. So, but like I think that's what we're missing in the NFL more than anything is nobody can drop it in a fucking hat.
We ain't got no pocket passers who can just sit there and shred.
And it's a shame. It's a shame.
We got the few guys we mentioned, but it's not a across the board type of thing.
We'll get it back. Like it'll transition back to pocket passers before you know it.
Definitely soon. Like real soon. Everyone's starting to figure out like how big of a waste it is these kind of type of quarterbacks that we're talking about. Like
Yeah,
we need
because
you
like
sitting back here shredding and throwing deep bombs and
you need to be able to throw the
ripping
ball around a
motherfuckers' hearts
football field a
out.
little bit, man, and that's really really hard thing to
Yeah.
learn how to do if you can't fucking do it. And last thing I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to touch on before we leave the podcast, super quick, switch over to some NBA just at the very end for a couple minutes. Kyle Kuzma said he'd be interested in playing, I believe it was for Puerto Rico, playing with Jordan Clarkson for Puerto Rico if he's not on the U.S. Olympic team for the next Olympics, which you're not going to be. Just let you know, Kuz, you're
You
not
might
going
as
to
well
be.
go ahead and plan on playing for Puerto Rico, player. You ain't gonna make Team USA.
Does that not seem like maybe like the fucking lamest thing you've ever heard your whole entire life is like, I'm going to go play for another country because I can't make the Olympics in my own country.
Yeah, it's pretty dorky.
It's like because every team gets one player who's not part of their country, right? In the Olympics, like everybody gets one. So we got Joel Embiid,
Yeah.
which like also like tight. I was like when we got Joel Embiid, I was like, oh, we're gonna win gold for sure. But like there was also part of me that's like, don't let that motherfucker on the team. Like go win with Americans. Neither here nor there. But like that
I
shit's
feel
fucking
you.
lame,
I
dog.
feel
Like I'm
you.
not good enough to play for my country. So at least Joel Embiid had his pick of the litter. At least Joel Embiid got to play wherever he wanted. He started on
Yeah,
the
this fool had
USA
three
Olympic
options. He
team.
said, "I'll play here."
You know, like Kyle Kuzma's just like Puerto Rico will take me. Like that's some lame ass shit, dog. Like you really
Yeah.
gonna go try to like beat America in a fucking Olympic game so that you can play? And if you're Puerto Rico, you only have one spot available for somebody who's not Puerto Rican, and you're gonna waste it on Kyle Kuzma. Also, doesn't seem like a great idea. But you know, neither here nor there. So I just wanted to touch on that. What do you think about it?
I think it's silly. I think like I agree with you. It's you're not good enough to make this team, so you're gonna go play for another team and try to beat your home country to win a medal.
It's the
Kind of
lamest thing I've ever
kind of
seen.
dorky.
It's the
But
lamest thing I've ever
if you
seen.
wanna if you wanna go play for another country and take this ass whooping with those other dudes, go ahead.
Yeah, be my guest.
If
Absolutely,
you
be
want to
my
get your ass
guest.
beat by USA playing for someone else, go ahead. So
Yeah,
I don't
that's
have a
on you.
problem with it. I think it's dorky, but I don't have a problem with it. I mean, if you can't make the team, so you're okay with just going out there and losing to us, if that's what you want to do, go ahead.
Yeah,
I don't
I
have a
mean,
problem with it.
I just thought it was kind of lame. I'm just like, if you can't make the Olympic team, you don't get to be in the Olympics. That's the
I think
rules.
if I'm not good enough to make the Olympic team, I think I'd rather sit my ass home than go out there and take an ass whooping to the team that I couldn't play for, because that's what's gonna happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's gonna be it for us today, folks. We appreciate
Thanks for
y'all.
tuning in.
Friday podcast Friday. NBA rule changes that we would like to see implemented. We're gonna come in hot with some rules that we'd like to see changed. Is no wrong answers except for a
We
4-point
got
line.
some good ideas.
We
Got
do.
some good ideas to improve the NBA.
And it's not gimmicky shit like a 4-point line, which is fucking dumb. 4-point shots are dumb.
Nonsense.
That's for the big three league, everybody.
We got
So
some good ideas. We're gonna pass them on to Adam Silver. I'll call him Friday after the podcast. Tell him to watch it.
shit would be better. You guys would get more views, I promise.
No doubt.
So all right,
Thanks
folks.
for rocking with us, y'all. Until next
Folks
time.
with y'all. Appreciate you.
Holla.